Hello, everyone. Good morning. And Elets Group, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And for the question as well, right? You set the stage. What do you guys think about zero trust architecture, right? So I'm going to be speaking about zero trust and how HashiCorp as an organization is helping a lot of organizations across the world, right, in achieving this zero trust security model, right? Now, before I get started, let me just introduce myself. My name is Sandeep Madhiraju, and I take care of the pre-sales for HashiCorp India. And before we get started, just wanted to check, how many of you have heard about HashiCorp? Okay. How many of you have heard about Terraform? Okay. Vault? Right, okay. I can see a few hands, right? So, when we started HashiCorp a couple of years back, right, I was like employee number one for HashiCorp in India. So when we spoke to customers, when we said HashiCorp, they didn't know us. But then when we started speaking about our products like Terraform, Vault, and they said, hey, you know what, we use your products, right? Because all our products are open source, right? The community versions are available for you to use. And, secure your infrastructure, secure your data, etc., right? So that's how, and now that most of us know what HashiCorp is, right? So I'm going to quickly dive deep into the slides and speak a little about security, the zero trust thing that everyone is speaking about, right? Traditionally, this is a very good analogy, right? So the castle and moat analogy fits in very well with the traditional security aspect, right? All the data, everything, our workloads used to be within the four walls, and we had one single door through which the data would actually come in, or the connections would come in and go out, right? You can relate that to a firewall or a router or a CIM tool, etc., right? But here, it is pretty much high trust networks, right? Anything inside is trusted. But what we are doing today is we're expanding. We're putting our workloads, we want to embrace the cloud, right? And you go ahead and add clouds, you add cloud regions, and by adding those things, what you're trying to do is basically, we are building a super network, right? We are extending our on-premise network and attaching that to the cloud networks, right? And as you start doing this, so you have these super networks can be built with various technologies, right? It can be an SD-WAN, it can be an VPN overlay, it can be like Express Route or Direct Connect, etc., right? But overall, what we are doing is bridging all of these and building a super network, right? So now with that, what we have is something similar to this, right? We've got these small pockets or small tents which are scattered, and these are on the cloud, right? So these are like an open field, right? So you've got these small tents which are open in the field, right? And that's very, that's seriously not a good way to leave them open in the field like that, right? So we need to secure these in some way, right? So just a little bit of statistics about how important security is and why we all are speaking about zero trust, right? So if you just look at these numbers, right, look at the number of data breaches that have occurred in the last 2 years, right? Look at the percentage. That's like 380%, which is a high number. I'm sure all of us would have seen a few data breaches recently, right? Like the Uber one or the Amazon and stuff and things. But so this is becoming significant, right? And every organization has got their eyes on it, right? So, and you can see most of these breaches have a human element which is involved, right? Or there are some, machines or servers which are like not properly hardened, because of which intruders get access into that and then get elevated privileges, and then they can just crawl through your entire infrastructure and data, right? So when we speak about the modern infrastructure, right? So lots of ways to make your super network. There are a lot of ways to make your super network harden, but it's never going to be 100%, right? Can you have a 0 day? I don't think so, right? Can you have a zero internal threat? Can you be 100% sure about not having a malicious contractor or an internal employee? That's not possible, right? So So what happens is, traditionally, if you look at it, right, how do we secure things? IP addresses used to be the unit of control, right? So when you have those private networks, you have the private CIDR blocks, you have your private subnets, that's fine. Authenticated, you're trusted, it's good. And what if someone had to access from outside? You had public IPs, and those were expressed through firewall rules, right? So you just have firewall rules saying, hey, if you're coming from this particular IP, then you're trusted, right? And that's how you get access to things. But in this ephemeral world where cloud, you spin up workloads up and down daily on a daily basis. You keep changing. There are cross-cloud communications that are happening and stuff. So IPs are not a stable unit any longer for you to put your entire security based on IP addresses, right? So what we need is, and moreover, when you look at identity, right? Identity as an aspect, you need to move from IP addresses and have identity as your central point of, central focal point for your security, right? Why? Because, and moreover, if you look at it, applications, there are so many, there's an explosion of applications, right? There are so many platforms. There are so many networking components that have come up. There are so many user identities. And newly what got added into it is all the cloud IAMs, right? Every hyperscale cloud has their own identity management system, right? So there's like a sprawl of identity management systems out there. Now, what you really need at this point in time is an identity broker, right? One single broker who can basically speak to any of these identities and get you basically authenticate through whatever identity that you come from, right? So as we transition into this zero trust space, HashiCorp looks at identity as the control unit, right? Now, surrounding the identities, what we do is we have, you can look at applications. When I speak about identity, it's like we have been practicing this for a long time, right? So we have human identities where you give your IDs, passwords, and then it can be AD, it can be Azure AD, it can be a lot of other things, right? Okta and stuff and things, OIDC. But what about applications? What about, let's say, microservices? What about pipelines, right? In this world, when you're not relying on IPs, each and everything like your applications, your pipelines, everything has to prove your identity before it can get access to some sort of data, right? And the very reason for that is because all our workloads today have expanded into low trust networks, right? Which is like, the super network that we are speaking about. So the only way is to give access to systems, to give access to data, to give access to anything, only if you prove your identity, right? So with that, there are multiple ways. Of course, it's not one particular tool which is going to give you zero trust, right? It's a combination of tools, and you need to take care of zero trust at various levels, right? Starting from the users to your machines, to your, the applications, and then a lot of other things as well, right? So to start with, HashiCorp Vault is one product which basically gives you, it's a kind of an identity broker. It does the job of an identity broker, and also helps you in eliminating secret sprawl, right? I'll give you a small example over here. Like, ideally, the applications talk to the database, and in order to speak to the database, they need the database credentials. And most of the times, what we do is we end up having those credentials of the database hard-coded into the application code, or we have it as a config file on the application server, right? Now, if you relate to this, the previous statistics about the threats that we saw, right? 9 out of 10 web servers were hacked, right? Now, considering your application servers being your front-facing servers and publicly accessible servers, if someone gets access to your application server, which means they can also get access to your database credentials, right? Now, the idea with Vault is, we introduced this to the world first called dynamic secrets. So why at all have static secrets? You need secrets. It can be application, it can be a pipeline, it can be a user, anything. You prove your identity with Vault, right? With the identity provider of your choice, right? Vault will broker it, you will be authenticated, and based on the authentication result, you will be given access to the data or the infrastructure or anything as such, right? So we say everything should have identity and everyone should authenticate, right? Should be authenticated irrespective of whether it is human, application, or machines, sorry. So, and the next big thing is about data, right? We speak to a lot of customers and then we say, how are you preventing data breaches, right? So, for example, is your data encrypted? And they say yes. Something what we do is basically we have the encryption enabled on the database, but that's at rest, right? What about in transit? Or what about a DBA who's got access to your database? When he goes into the database, he of course is an admin, so he has access to it. And he can see all of the data in plain text, native format, right? But how is that secure? So what we're speaking about is insider threat, right? Now, what is the guarantee that this person doesn't take your data and, copy it into a file and go away, right? So how do you ensure only the right people have access to the right data, right? So with the new DPDP Act coming into picture and stuff, right? So we have a lot of organizations who are looking at Vault because of Vault's capabilities, we being FIPS compliant. We can help you in terms of tokenization, encrypting your data, etc., right? Right, so we can take care of all of those requirements as well, right? So from identity brokering to application data encryption to secrets management, it's a one-stop solution with respect to your secrets and security, right? Now, further, what we do is we are in this microservices world, so we've got a lot of services, right, running, and not necessary that everything is within one pod or one cloud or one data center, right? If not for microservices, even virtual machines or bare metal servers or anything for that matter, right? So you have some workloads on-prem, you have some workloads in the cloud, you have some workloads, scattered across different clouds, right? Now, all of these are basically communicating with each other, right? Now, how do you ensure that the communication between these services and or basically these workloads is secure, right? So do they trust each other? Do you have a service mesh, right? How do you do the service discovery? All of those things. So from a network automation perspective and security from a network perspective, we have a product called Console, which basically does all of, which does all of these things, right? So along with Vault, we provide identity, and along with Console, we ensure we take care of all your networking needs, right? Whether it is in the same cloud or they're scattered, we ensure that data is always secure in transit and at rest. Now, finally, coming to the user perspective, right? We need to ensure that the right users have access to just the right set of machines, right? Or the right set of data. So most of you would be using some kind of a PAM solution and stuff, right? So Boundary is a new age PAM solution, right? So we can broker connections to all of your workloads irrespective of where they are, right? So put together, as I said, Zero Trust is not about one product, and there is no one such product which can ensure end-to-end Zero Trust security. It's a set of products coming together, and we have an entire suite which takes care of this end-to-end, right? So, and we are also a SaaS company. Our products are available as an enterprise self-managed product. We also have a SaaS platform, which is called the HashiCorp Cloud Platform, where you can subscribe to all of these products and ensure or start your journey with Zero Trust. That was about Zero Trust. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have.